Dear friends of freedom, that's how I usually start my German-speaking video. So this is my Christmas present for the ones who don't understand German and also want to listen to my story. So the short version is I grew up in a religious cult and I came out and I'm happy now. Okay, and now you can say goodbye and finish watching this video, but maybe you want to know more. Okay, so if you want to know more, then just listen. Maybe you know me as a lecturer, maybe I'm your teacher, maybe I'm a friend. Whatever I am for you, yeah, I just invite you to listen to my story and then make up your own opinion. So I grew up in a religious cult. What do I mean by this? Everyone is first going to ask, well, what kind of religious cult? So in English, the name is International Missionary Society of Seventh-day Adventist Reform Movement. Okay, and you can immediately forget that title. Imagine a mix of Jehovah's Witnesses and Orthodox Jewish faith. Then you are there where I grew up. Okay, so I will tell you now what was forbidden, what was allowed during my childhood. So I grew up in Germany, and my father was German and my mother came from Finland. And she had moved to Germany because in Finland she was already a member of that cult, and there wasn't such a big choice to find a partner. It was obligatory to marry someone from your own group, religious group. So it was very common for people in the days and still to choose someone outside the country, because if you can only choose from 3 different candidates, of course it might be that you don't like them, yeah. So that was the case. So my mother went to Germany, and she got to know my father in a hospital of the religious cult where both belonged to, and so they got married, and quite soon, 3 years after, I was on the way. So what do they believe in? They think that they are the only right Christians, like just about every other fundamentalistic movement thinks. They think they are the only ones who believe in the Bible as one should do, and they are Protestant but very, very strict. So approximately there are 400 members of this movement in Germany. In Finland, about 20 at the moment. And I think one of the next presents I'm going to make is I will have this talk also in Finnish. But first of all, I'm going to have it in English. So why they are considered to be so strict is because they very strictly follow the Sabbath, almost in the same way as Orthodox Jewish people do. So from Friday evening to Saturday evening, from sunset Friday evening to sunset Saturday evening, it is strictly forbidden to work, to spend money, to sweat. So playing football was not possible. You were only allowed to go for a walk. And you were only allowed to read religious literature on that day. So nothing else. So even the opening of a letter was forbidden. Because it could lead your thoughts into the wrong direction. So we as children, so I grew up with one younger brother, 1 year younger. We were not allowed to go to school on Saturdays, so we missed 1/6 of the whole school career. And of course we were told that God is going to bless us and we are going to get especially good grades. Of course, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So then you have to work accordingly to get the good grades, because if we hadn't got them, then we wouldn't have been blessed by God and something would have been wrong with us, of course. So strict keeping of the Sabbath is one of the things that they do and that they believe in, and they think that everyone who keeps the Sunday is going to go to hell. Yeah, definitely, because in the Bible you find the Sabbath. So then what else? There's a long list of what is forbidden. So let's start. They are vegetarians, and they are moving into the direction of becoming vegans. So they think that one of these days one should also stop eating eggs and milk products. But at the point when we grew up, they were like strict vegetarians, no meat, no fish, and no vaccinations. So that's one of the reasons why I make this video, because this movement is known to be against vaccinations. So they still put on their homepage some exception letters that the pastor can sign and show some person who belongs to their denomination that they have like a religious right to be exempt from vaccinations, even though they have given now the members the right to decide for themselves. Okay, so that was a big sensational new thing now due to COVID, but it's still very questionable how they behave in that regard. And that was the reason why my father didn't get vaccinated and he died from corona. So it's another reason why I think that this video is really good and it should be online. And why I do it, because I want to save people's lives. So I'm not interested in anyone dying of COVID just because some stupid religious rules. So I wasn't vaccinated as a child, and I can only be happy that nothing happened while I was a youngster. And immediately when I grew up and I had the possibility to get my own vaccinations, then I got them. I have to say I'm very thankful for that. So what else was forbidden? So of course no alcohol, no smoking, which is of course very fine. Then no caffeine, so no coffee, no Coca-Cola, no black tea. Everything in that sort was forbidden. Then nothing, you were not allowed to go to a theater, to opera. Even going to the cinema was questionable. They allowed it for a nature film, but not for a normal film. Basically, you shouldn't even read novels. So everything that was kind of a made-up story that didn't actually happen, you shouldn't read it. Yeah. So a lot of other, makeup for women. There's a long list of what is forbidden. So you are not allowed to wear any makeup. You're not allowed to wear any jewelry. So all of this is forbidden. This is forbidden. So they think that you should accept the way God has created you. So it doesn't matter if you were born with some problem. Better not take care of it, because that's the way God made you. Yeah, so you have to accept that. And then you are not allowed to have short hair. So hair cutting is not allowed. This is out of my free will that I have long hair. So and then a lot of other things are not allowed. Dancing is not allowed. So moving to music is not allowed. Of course, sex before marriage is not allowed. So it's easier to ask what is allowed than to what is not allowed. So I wasn't allowed to go to ballet when I asked. I wasn't allowed to go to take dance lessons as a teenager as the rest of the class. I wasn't allowed to go along with my school group when they left for like a school excursion for 1 week, because Sabbath would have been in the way. And so lots of things that are not allowed. Yeah. So basically you are an outsider. But when you grow up, of course, you take your parents' words for granted and you think they are right. And you don't really question them because you depend on them. So until I was about 12 years old, I didn't really question them. I was a good missionary for the movement, and they put me into the Lutheran school teaching. In Germany you have all children go to either Lutheran or Catholic religion classes, and I was put there to be a good missionary. And my teachers were always very happy to have me, because I basically had a program for the class, yeah, so they could lean back and just do nothing, because I was telling the whole class that evolution is just a theory and it's not right, and God has created the world in 6 days, and this is the reason why. So yeah, so lots of things that are forbidden, and no Christmas. That's why I said Christmas present for you. So in the same way as Jehovah's Witnesses, they are not in favor of any kind of religious holidays, not Christmas. They don't celebrate Easter. They tell you that you have to think of the fact that Jesus was born and Jesus died for us each and every second of your existence. And only the bad Christians, they only think of that one day during the year, and the rest of the year they forget about it. So of course they had this black and white worldview. Everyone outside the movement was bad and criminal, and they were the only good people in the world. And so they made this distinction between bad and good, and made us feel afraid of the world outside. So we had the truth, so we were talking about the truth, and the other ones were kind of the worldly people. Yeah. Okay, so when did I start to question all of this? Well, it was something that happened already all the time as a woman, as a child. I wasn't allowed to wear pants, trousers. So as a small child, they still allowed it while I wasn't like before puberty. But then when I started to show the first signs of puberty, then my father had this said to my mother, and now you shouldn't buy any more pants or trousers for Claudia. Okay. So, and I was curious, and I asked, hey, where in the Bible do you find that women should not wear trousers? And then my father told me that in Deuteronomy 22 verse 5 it says, a woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak, for whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God. So you are an abomination to God if you wear trousers. Very easy, yeah? So I then did something that I shouldn't have done, according to my parents probably, but I did it anyway. I took the Bible and read the whole paragraph, not just this verse. And immediately in verse 6, so the following verse says, if you come across a bird's nest in any tree or on the ground with young ones or eggs, and the mother sitting on the young or the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young. You shall let the mother go, but the young you may take for yourself, and it may go well with you, that it may go well with you, and that you may live long. So I asked my father immediately, so this verse, is this also true for us? So should we behave this way as the Bible says here, that we then should let the mother go but take the youngers? I had no intention of taking young birds for myself. So my father immediately said, oh, this is only for the Jewish people at the time when they left Egypt. So this is not true any longer. These are only like rules for the Jewish people at the time. And then I immediately, of course, answered, so what about the verse before? How can you know that this is okay for us, that we have to behave accordingly, and the other one is just true for the Jewish? It doesn't say here that this verse is eternally right and the other verse is just right for the next 50 years or 500 years. And my father was very angry and shouted at me, always in situations like that. He was very angry. Shut up! This is God's eternal word and you should not criticize it, you little girl. So I had learned my lesson. And basically it was a very important lesson. There is not such a thing as a Bible verse which says this is eternally true, and the next verse says this is only partially true, or this is only true for the next 50 years or for the next 500 years. So there's no meta text there that allows to interpret the text in the right way. So it's just man-made interpretations, and that's what it's all about. Every religious group takes their own verses, interprets them in their own way, and then tell their people that they are the only one who follow the Bible. Take whatever group you can think of, it's that way. So the Jehovah's Witnesses, they take the blood rule, yeah? So don't get blood donations, otherwise we are going to expel you out of our organization because you didn't obey God. And funnily enough, this group, the Reform Movement, they accept blood donations because they say they don't eat blood, they don't consume blood because they are vegetarians, yeah. So, but blood donations are okay to save your life. Then they say saving a life is always more important than following some sort of rule which you cannot really find in the Bible, because blood donations were not invented at the time. Yeah. So in fact that was the start of my criticism. So I started to take one verse after the other, and I found out this doesn't really make sense. So they interpret it into that way, and another group interprets it to another way, and it doesn't matter what you take. Yeah, how can you make up that we shouldn't drink alcohol if Jesus made wine? Okay, they tell you that it has been grape juice. Oh, funny. Why did the people then say, why did you make the best wine when people were already drunk? So how can it be grape juice when they were drunk? So yeah, many things. How can you justify that you have to be a vegetarian if surely you can see in the Bible that Jesus made fish for the people? He should have only made bread if fish is so bad for you. Yeah. So there were too many things that didn't make sense. So a few years passed, and when I was 14, my best friend, 4 years older, she was the daughter of the pastor, told me that she was about to leave this church. I was devastated. I was first really shocked because I still thought that this group is right and okay, we should change some things. Women should be allowed to wear pants, and then that would be paradise. Okay. So I talked to my friend, and she had been studying, she had been reading books. That was the times before the internet, yeah, so you had no possibility to get to knowledge. And then it took only a very short time, and it was very clear to me that this Reformation movement could not be God's church on earth. It was simply impossible. But my parents were still allowed to make the decisions for me, and they were allowed to tell me what I have to do. So I had to live this kind of double life, not accepting what they taught, but I had to do as they wanted. So with 18, I confronted my parents that I would not attend their meetings anymore. So also the prayer time during mornings and evenings. In fact, I even gave them still a choice. I said, if you stop reading the books of E.G. White, because this movement believes in a prophet that lived in the 19th century in the US, E.G. White, And I said, well, if you read only the Bible, then I will attend your morning prayer and evening prayer. But if you read out of the books of that lady, then I won't. So they chose E.G. White. For me, that was a clear sign. Come on. There is no way they are going to change. Because that's another thing that you can be sure of. If you have any other person in this religious cult, call it E.G. White, call it Russell, call it Smith, call it whatever. Why on earth any kind of good and wise God would have given the right prophet only in the year 1800 so and so to humanity? Question mark. So I accept if you are Christian, if you believe in Jesus, if that's your thing, but don't come along with any kind of extra guy. We don't need any kind of extra guy. Yeah, there would have been a stupid God who didn't tell his full truth about 2000 years ago. So any kind of religion that wants to tell me that we need someone extra on top of what we already have, there's the door. Get out. I cannot stand any of them. So what happened was, okay, I still believed in a lot of things. So basically, okay, you cannot get rid of this kind of strict education and upbringing in a short time. At least I wasn't able to do so. So what I did, I went to the normal Adventist church. Probably you have heard of them, Free Church, Evangelical Church, anyhow. And I became a member there. So I thought that this is now the right thing to do. And I got baptized as an Adventist. And then I lived my life as an Adventist for several years. And what I found out is this is also a cage. So it might be a wider cage, it might be a nicer cage, and not so many rules as in the Reform movement or missionary movement, however you call it. But anyhow, they are very strict also, and they also think that they're the only ones who are going to be saved. So I got to know other Christians. I got to know Christians from other denominations. And I couldn't see that these people were bad people or that they were not sincere people. On the contrary, really nice people in whatever denomination, whatever, yeah, like Lutherans, Catholics, Baptists, very, very nice people, sincere people. Are they all going to go to hell because they don't keep the right day? Is God such a person that he simply kills everyone because they don't keep the right day? So that's really, really funny. And I wasn't able to accept that message. So as someone said, eternal suffering awaits anyone who questions God's infinite love. Is that really God? I think it was Bill Hicks, comedian and social critic. So I found out that all of these people are nice people and they take things seriously, and I found my place in mainstream Christianity. So I got out of the Adventist movement and I became a Lutheran. So basically that's what I stayed for a long time, until I found out, hey, if you get to know people from other religions, they are also sincere people. And they grew up as whatever they grew up, where they accidentally were born into the country, where the majority is Muslim or the majority is Hindu or whatever they are. If there was a religion that's so much better or so much superior, so much more right, then definitely the majority of people would find out about it and would join that religion. But it doesn't happen. And the main message that these religions all have is the golden rule. Treat your neighbor, your other, whatever, whomever you meet in the same way as you want to be treated. Yeah? So that's the golden rule. And that's independently of any kind of religion. You don't even have to believe in anything at all to follow the golden rule. So in the end, I became an agnostic. So I don't know if there's anything out there. I cannot prove anything, but I cannot be sure about anything. And I'm quite sure that if God exists, if he is he, we don't even know if it's he, you know, if he is a loving something, he will surely understand my story, and he will surely understand why I'm in this position. If he doesn't understand, then he's not loving. So in the event, if he exists, I simply rely on him that he's loving and forgiving. And that's the way I can have a wonderful, free life. But now I'm going to tell you what helped me to get out, because there are other people who have a similar story than mine. And basically, it doesn't have to be this movement. It can be another religious cult. It can be other reasons why you have had a shitty childhood, a bad childhood. I was very unhappy as a child because my parents never said good things about me. They said you shouldn't say anything good about the children. They otherwise become arrogant. So I was very, very unsure about myself. I didn't trust in myself, and I thought that I'm not able to cope. My self-esteem was basically below zero. Yes, you won't believe it if you know me now, but that's really the reason that's the way it was when I was young. So what helped me to get out? So I think 5 different things, and they might help anyone who is in a similar situation than I am. Maybe some factor will help you more than another one, or one is going to be more important than another one. So I think the very first factor that helped me was the fact that in Germany, where I lived, it was obligatory to go to a normal public school. So no homeschooling allowed. Because I'm quite sure that probably my parents would have gotten the thought to homeschool me, maybe. But then maybe also not, because my mother, her German was not perfect because she learned it as a foreign language. So they might still have put me into a normal school, but that was really one of the main factors why I became quite a normal person. Because in school I could thrive. I loved school, I loved my teachers, and the teachers loved me. Because, of course, I was a very obedient child and I did everything they wanted. I learned. I was very exact in what I did. And, of course, I wanted to get some positive feedback because I wouldn't get positive feedback from my parents. So it was very easy simply to learn and then get some well done said. And that felt like heaven, if someone said that. Yeah. So normal school, and that's also the reason why I'm definitely not in favor of homeschooling. Homeschooling will help only extremist religious cults. Every politician should be aware of the fact that homeschooling helps religious cults to let children just grow up in this religious bubble. They will learn to read and to write only with the Bible under the supervision of their father and mother, and they will learn everything that the religious cult tells them, that the mother has to obey the father. Of course, it was very patriarchalistic, you know, the father was the head of the family, you would have to obey him. As a mother, you're not allowed to work outside of the home, yeah, so you should just serve your husband and then your children and take care of the home and things like that. And if you get brainwashed this way for the first years of your life, you're almost lost for normal life. Yeah. So it's going to be very, very, very difficult then to open up your mind and see something else besides the bubble that you have grown up. So normal school is really a key factor to a normal life. A second reason is my wonderful brother. 1 year younger than I am, and he basically had the same opinions than I had, at least when it came to religion. And so he supported me, of course, first secretly, because it wasn't possible to do it outwardly. But he also left the movement, and in fact he left much harsher than I did, because he didn't needed this intermediate phase as an Adventist. So he never became any part of any religious movement. So, but I knew that he was basically standing behind me. It would have been much harder to know that if he had stayed there and maybe made up a family there, and to have this bridge between us, you know, to have something, something dividing between us, then it would have been really hard for me, I guess. But I think I would have done it anyway, also if he hadn't come the same way. Then the third factor is my best friend. I've already mentioned her. At the time, I was very, very thankful to her, because she showed me the way out of the this reform movement. So she opened my eyes, and I saw very clearly that this couldn't be the truth for the whole humanity. So very hard to say. If I hadn't had her, maybe I would have got the material a lot later, maybe much later, because it was very hard to get material about the movement. There was no internet. Basically, you had to get some brochure or some book and read books about the Adventist movement to find out if everything is right, what the Reformation movement tells you. Nowadays, for instance, one doctoral thesis has been written about the Reformation movement, and so you can have a look into that doctoral thesis. But even that, it can be quite difficult, because maybe you don't have access to it, and it's not on the net yet. So that was number 3, the best friend. Number 4, I would say my personality. I'm this kind of, I do it my way. Very tough nut to crack. So very strong will and very strong personality. So if I had been this kind of person who just wants to please my parents, who wants to live in peace with them, who doesn't want to offend them in any way, then I probably would have stayed. I would have said, well, I don't want to make them unhappy, because they were really unhappy. They thought, I'm going to go to hell, and my mother still thinks that way. So she still, she has made her decisions that the religious movement is going to get the money after she dies. So I am nothing in her eyes, or maybe I'm just a little something, but not really much. So it's still that way, and you need this certain kind of personality. So I cannot even be criticizing a lot of the people who stay, because if you are born this way, that you just want to live in peace and you don't want to be bothered, and maybe especially if you're a man, it might be much easier to stay, because you then can be in contact with your family and live with them and have a nice relation with all your relatives who are inside the movement. If you leave, okay, it's not as bad as with the Jehovah's Witnesses, so they don't have to cut all ties with you, but you are definitely an outsider. So you're not going to be included in their conversations. There have been situations when I entered the room and all of a sudden there was a deadly silence. So you are definitely an outsider. You find out afterwards that birthdays have been celebrated and you haven't been invited, things like that. Oh yes, yeah, birthdays are celebrated. That's a difference to the Jehovah's Witnesses. Even though we also have some guys in our movement who think that the Jehovah's Witnesses are right in that way, so we shouldn't celebrate Christmas. We shouldn't celebrate birthdays either. But with Christmas, they're very serious. So Christmas is not allowed in any way. Yeah. So, and then maybe number 5 is any kind of help that you can accept it. Therapy, yes. Religious cults, they don't like you to go to therapy. And there's a reason why, because therapy helps you to enlarge your field of freedom, your access to freedom. So they will always oppose that, and for a reason. So if you have the possibility to get therapy, then I would definitely say make use of it, and as soon as possible. Self-help groups, definitely very, very important, because only people who have gone through the same thing as you can really understand you. It might even be that some other people don't even understand you at all. They will say, why do you believe in such crazy stuff? This is evident that it's not true. And there you are, and you have your doubts, and you think, well, am I really so stupid that I sometimes have these feelings? What if they are right? Only people who have gone through the same thing, they can understand you. And that's also why I'm active in a Finnish group called UUT. So it is a group that helps victims of religions. And so the English title is Support for Victims of Religion. It's a registered association. And the Finnish name is Uskontojen uhrien tuki. So if you live in Finland, then I simply suggest get into contact with them. They have their own site. They have these self-support groups, and there are Facebook groups that you can join according to the religion where you have been part of. And I myself, I have been acting actively in UUT, so I have offered the very first career coaching group for victims of religions, and if need be, I will offer another one. And I have prepared now also an online version of this course, so one of these days I might be able to offer it even online, independently of where you are, because I have a training as a career coach. And this has been a wonderful experience to find out that every one of us has talents, and that can be used for your future professional career, especially when you come from groups where getting educated is not valued, like the Jehovah's Witnesses. In my parents' group, it was a kind of half and half thing. For men, it was accepted to be educated. For women, it was kind of okay, it's okay, just in case if you lose your husband, then you should have a profession that you can have and that you can use to support your children. So in that way it was accepted. So what else do I have on my heart? So of course it might be that maybe you haven't grown up in a religious cult, but you may have in another way a very unhappy childhood. I mean, maybe you have had some abuse, maybe you have had alcohol problems in your home. So there can be a number of other reasons why you are struggling with self-esteem and with other questions. Then the same is true, as I said, use any kind of possibility to get help, because no one is going to award you at the end of your life with a gold medal saying, you have never asked for help, now we thank you for that and you are rewarded for it. No, it's not going to work like that. So get all the help in the world that you are able to get, and your life will become better. I promise you, really, I'm 100% sure of it. So this is why I wanted to tell my story. And if you are interested, if you want to know more, I might even do more English videos. I don't know yet. I'm probably the first one who tells her story as a someone growing up in this International Missionary Society of Seventh-day Adventist Reform Movement. So I thought it would be a good idea to make this video. If you are in this group, if you struggle with them and their teachings, then you can always get into contact with me. I have my my email address at the end of the video or under the video, so you're going to find it. And you can write me in German, in English, in Finnish. I even understand some French. So it should be possible to get into contact with me. But please, if you're one of those who wants to tell me that Corona doesn't exist or vaccinations don't help, don't get into contact. I've had some of those ones. So I don't want to be with those crazy ones. Abstain from sending me letters. I've had enough. I believe in science, and I don't even have to believe in science. Believing is bad, because it suggests you had the option to believe in science or not to believe in science. Even if you don't believe in science, science doesn't care. You're anyway going to get the disease, even if you don't believe in it. So I thought this is a very important time to do this video, and I think it's a good time to wake up to reality and enlarge your freedom. Start thinking yourself why God gave you brains if you were not allowed to use them. Think of it. Have a wonderful holiday. Bye bye.